All right, so Alex, I have a tweet in the doc
that I put there. I think what had happened was you put it into the doc and I moved it to where it is. That's why I thought it was mine. That's why quasi took ownership of it.
So,
well, no, we're gonna put it on the screen.
No, I know. I don't remember what clip it was. I have to remind myself. Oh, I'm sorry, Josh. You did put this in the doc.
Put this in. No, there's another one.
Okay, play it.
No one.
Press pause. I have an observation. Press pause. See, look,
Michael is now interrupting video clips. I want the viewers to comment on that.
No, this is important.
Okay.
Look what he's doing with his hands.
Yeah, he's got one of them is doing like the.
He was doing this. He's doing what we all do with our hands.
He doesn't know what to do.
You don't know what to do with your hands.
Why are they filming him?
That's why the Apple people.
Pockets. You put them in your pockets.
Alex, what do the Apple people do when they give presentations?
Do they clasp
behind their
like
back.
this?
No, they put them behind their back.
No, there's like a.
But you're supposed to show your hands. Like hiding your hands is a sign of like you don't trust the people.
Unless it's like, look, wait, guess what's behind my back?
Somebody did a video of all Apple executives on stage doing a presentation, and they all do. I don't know. I forget what it is. They all do the same thing with their hands, and they're coached to, obviously, because Jerome Powell, he doesn't have a hand coach.
No idea.
We got to get this guy a hand coach. Is there anybody that does?
Start it over. I want to hear what he says.
But look at his hands while you watch.
Looks like the Arthur meme.
Jay Powell, I'm the chair of the Federal Reserve. And all the Federal Reserve is now on Instagram and Threads. The Fed is America's central bank working to promote a healthy economy and a strong financial system. That mission starts with you.
Me?
October is National Economic
Literally
Education
you.
Month, and throughout the month and beyond, we'll be posting here with information, links to events, and other resources about how Fed decisions affect you, your family, and your community.
See, this is good at editing. They immediately edited. They zoomed in to get rid of the
get those
hand,
hands out.
the weird thumb.
But why did it start that way? Why couldn't they have just cut in at the? Why are they showing us what he's doing with his hands and then cutting them away? Just don't show them ever. Am I crazy? They look like a full length. He's almost like an animatronic president at Disney World, like the Hall of Presidents. Like, why are you showing this man standing, like full on?
The way that video is shot is ridiculous. Like the first comment in there is, I thought that was AI Jerome Powell. It literally looks like you deep faked Jerome Powell and you had him there putting this message. Maybe that's what they did.
Whose idea do we think this was? Like literally.
It had to have come from somebody very high at the Fed, just saying that
hey,
the American public might turn on us. Like we might be sparking a recession here. Let's get out on Instagram and get the message out ourselves. That's why you do it.
I have a friend, Lauren LaCapra, who does like content, I feel like, for the Fed, but I think it's the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. I don't think she had a hand in this. Maybe she'll reach out and tell us. Is it a good sign when central bank is like going to now start shit posting on Instagram and Threads?
Not shit posting.
I don't know. Is it what do we need this for?
It's a great sign.
What? Why? What?
No, I don't know.
What is what do you think is the purpose of this?
I mean, I think that they're anticipating some bad press ahead. That's the reason why you go onto social media to try to tell your story and put your narrative out there.
This guy knows.
Yeah, because guess who's going to get laid off? People sitting on Instagram.
Yeah.
And when
you're going to have AI Jerome Powell saying, "I'm sorry for
if
what
and
happened
when the
to
Fed
you."
goes too far with rates and the unemployment rate starts to spike, 100% it's going to be all Fed hate all the time.
No doubt.
On the internet.
Ben and I were talking about a survey that Coinbase did, which was nonsense about how many people own how many Americans own crypto. But I think the numbers was like 1 in 5 or maybe 50% are like completely disillusioned with the economic system in America. And so I think that maybe talking directly to those people isn't the absolute worst idea.
Imagine being disillusioned with the economy and thinking crypto is the solution. You want to be disillusioned, spend a year in crypto.
And it's the natural progression, right? You don't believe in the economy, you believe in the hedge. But the problem is then you get screwed by the hedge and you're totally an anarchist at that point.
I would argue the hedge is way worse than the thing it's hedging.
No doubt. I mean, that's, by the way, in Latin America. So I spent a good deal of time in Latin America in 2022. And they love Bitcoin. And they love Bitcoin because inflation is so high. A place like Argentina has inflation at 80%. So you see Bitcoin stickers all over the place. El Salvador, for instance, made it the national currency. Like the process of dollarization has been so bad. And it sounds good in theory. That just the problem is in practice, you screw yourself even worse by going into these highly volatile and scam cryptocurrencies.
Latin America had, a horrific economic. Well, it seems like it's a rolling horrific economic situation for some of those countries, but they had dollar-denominated debt that they just couldn't pay as the value of the dollar rose versus their local currency. It was like adding insult to injury. So I understand, and that's generational. If you grew up in a household where that was destroying the economy of the country you live in, I understand the suspicion and not wanting the traditional economic system and wanting something outside of that. I don't think most people in the United States could claim the same level of harm that the economy has done here.
It's inspired by greed, a lot of the other investing. Like, you think about the FTX story, and there's two sides of it, of course, right? There's Sam Bankman-Fried and his completely irresponsible and reckless management of money that people trusted him with. And then there's people who invested in crypto because they wanted a return somewhere, and they thought they could get a 20% return if they're investing in crypto and FTX, and it blew up in their face.
What about a use case for Latin American countries? Zeke Fox in his book was describing the failed experiment of Bitcoin in El Salvador. Mm-hmm. What if those people are easily able to just use USDC or some sort of stablecoin to hedge against ridiculous inflation, which is an obvious real crisis there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good hedge. It's also like, if you think about El Salvador, 20 to 25% of that country's GDP is on remittances, so people sending money back and forth. And you pay a ton of money.
Yeah.
So how are stablecoins not an obvious solution there?
I think it is a good solution. That's the thing is, with the crypto shakeout, like, we're starting to see, okay, all these scams are getting washed out. People are being more careful about it. Were there real problems that some of this was trying to solve? Yes. And is there a chance that we have a second wave of this that actually solves those problems? It's possible. The problem is that trust has been shattered.
So you're the big tech guy.
That's right.
I think the biggest big tech story of the year is taking place right now in Las Vegas. I think the thing that they built is more impressive than anything I've seen the FANG companies build.
This is my story.
In 2023. No, I really did. First of all, have you gone a day without somebody bringing it up to you or asking you if you've seen it or sharing the videos with you? Probably not.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
The legs that this
John,
has.
can we pop this on?
I mean, I think every day, how am I going to get out to Vegas and watch U2 before that residency is up?
So
Look at this shit. First of all, it's one of my favorite songs. Put the audio on.
Where the tweets have no names?
All right. The audio. Look at this shit.
Sick.
So somebody said the only concert venue where the nosebleed seats are better than the front row.
Because you know why?
Exactly.
Do we have that image? Yeah. Like, you can't see this from the front row. It's true. I mean, that is spectacular. Oh my God.
So I feel like this is a bigger technological breakthrough than anything that I've seen from Apple, Microsoft, Meta.
I've always said James Dolan is a tech god.
I've always consistently said
so
this.
So talk about that from a technology standpoint. Why do you think it's so impressive?
These are LEDs on the outside of the building that are spaced 8 inches apart, and there's hundreds of thousands of them, and they are projecting just this incredible range of images that we have never seen on an edifice, on a building. I don't care about the 7-inch screen on my phone. Like, that's no longer impressive to me because we've already been living with that. Now you're seeing them do this with architecture in a major city. And I think the visual of it is so arresting, so breathtaking that it's like the image of the year. Like these shots from inside of a U2 show in Las Vegas. Like, if you think of, like, what is the iconography of the year 2023, that's a front runner. Maybe, like, when the year is over, we'll look back and say, that was the most mind-blowing thing any of us have seen.
So here's my question. Can other bands carry that venue in the same way that U2 did? So they had plenty of time to prepare for it. They are they're an impressive band. You know, if your song is low energy, and there were a couple in the set, and you can watch them on YouTube, Desire is one of them, it really stands out. Like, and there's nowhere to hide in that amphitheater.
I think the visuals, though, will take over in those moments if you do it right.
Who's the Jeb Bush of music?
So you don't think Beyonce is going to arrive inside that sphere and destroy?
It's going to be a once in a lifetime show.
Hold on, John, shut this beeping off for me. I have no idea how to do it.
Every time.
I know. Just help me once, okay? What do I press? This?
Focus.
Hit focus.
Focus.
Do not disturb.
Do not disturb.
But I think you have to do it on your phone too, since you're linked.
Oh, I see.
So, Batnick, you're going to Vegas in November.
So My friends,
Dude, I'm
texted-
going to this U2 show.
You guys are both going.
I'm going with
Oh,
Joe
Joe?
Fahmy
Nice.
in October this month.
So where are you going to sit?
I don't know where our seats are, to be honest with you, but what I do know is that dinner beforehand is at Cipriani, Las Vegas.
Nice.
And we're just doing this like Dons. This is going to be like one of the best nights of my life. And my wife hates me.
I gotta go.
So I'm going without her.
Yeah, because you're going to be in Vegas, right?
Yeah, my friends were asking if we should go Saturday night. I gotta
Yes.
go. I have to go.
You should
It'll
go.
be better than the football game you're going to watch.
That's for sure.
How much are the tickets online right now? They're $1,000?
For the Sphere,
Like Taylor Swift price, right?
let's see.
Do you know that this is publicly traded?
Yes.
SPHR.
The market cap is less than the amount of money they spent to
Yeah,
build
the
it.
market cap is $1.5 billion, and
It
it's
costs 4, right?
a two.
2.5.
Okay.
2.5. So you can invest in the Sphere. Like if you really are excited about it, I think it's bundled together with the MSG TV network that shows
All
the
right.
Knicks and Rangers.
Saturday, November 4th. I need 3 tickets.
All right, we're not.
Josh, would you advise people to invest
Oh my
in the
God.
Sphere?
How much?
Wait, were you about to say something?
No.
Yeah,
how
you
much?
are. You about to talk shit.
I want
we
to know
don't
how
what?
much they
we
were.
don't what?
I was gonna say we don't have time for you to like book travel right now. Is that a fair statement? Did you get a dollar amount?
I guess.
Share. 1,500.
2,000.
I don't know. Well, I don't know what section.
All right. The cheapest one is $900.
Yeah, it sounds
Oh,
right.
okay.
That's
Doable.
doable. That's T Swift
so
at
much money.
Meadowlands.
That's a lot
no?
of money.
All right, shall we get this going?
You know what?
But
I
to
might-
go see U2, I don't know. I feel like it might be worth
How much is one ticket? I might have to go alone to this.
All right, where's my music?
720. Yeah, I'm going. I have to go.
What are
I
we
would do
doing?
it.
I'm going.
Turn me up. What show is this, John?
Compound and Friends, episode 112.
Today's episode of the Compound and Friends is brought to you by our friends at Bird Dogs. It is bird dog season. You know what? It's always bird dog season in the summer, in the fall. I don't know if they have any winter gear, but it's definitely bird dog season right now. If you want to dress as cool and look as good as I do, go to birddogs.com/compound. You'll also get a free white tech dad hat, which I wear regularly. It breathes. I don't know what material it is, but it's the best. That's birddogs.com/compound to get your gear.
112. Room 112, where the players dwell. What?
I just
Know what that song is from?
no.
That's Biggie. Yo, shout out to all the fans, all the followers, all the viewers. We love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all the reviews lately, sending the show to your friends. And shout out to the haters, too. If you hate me, I'm going to give you so much more to hate. The show is not going away. We're going to keep bringing on the best guests in the industry. God, you're going to fucking hate me when this is all over. I swear to God, you're going to hate me. We have a really special guest today, friend of the show, fan favorite, if you will. Someone who has done incredible content all year. Speaking of the stories of 2023, my friend Alex Kantrowitz. Alex, say what's up to the people.
What's up to the people? Great to be here.
All right. Alex is the founder of Big Technology, a newsletter and podcast about Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, all the most important companies that are changing our lives and changing our world. He also published Always Day One, which I have in my office right now, How the Tech Titans Plan to Stay on Top Forever, which debuted in 2020. And you are a current CNBC contributor.
That's correct.
All right. Michael Batnick is here, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
All right. John is here. Duncan is back. How do you feel back in the saddle?
Feels good.
Where were you?
It's in Germany.
What were you doing there?
My wife ran the Berlin Marathon.
Channel
Oh, that's
checks.
right. I knew that. How did she do?
She did well. She broke her previous record. So yeah.
So she runs international marathons?
She's trying to do the Abbott 6, I think. It's like the 6 major marathons.
So there's like a jet lag component to that if you don't plan it right.
Yeah. I was
Okay.
jet lagged watching.
Okay. You ever think of training to run with her or no?
Nah, I'm just a short distance person. I run 5.
Yeah,
maybe,
same, me
Maybe
too.
10K. Yeah.
So maybe 1K. I run a 1K. Nicole is here. Rob is here. Guys, welcome to the show. So happy to have you, Alex. I think let's start with this Metaverse stuff because the Metaverse has been really quiet. But what are we saying here about this?
Let's throw this tweet up. So it's a video of, I'm sure you saw it. It's a video of Lex Friedman. By the way, can you just before we get to the video, how did Lex Fridman get famous? Like, all of a sudden he's got like 1 million. He's one of the most popular podcasters.
He's an awesome interviewer, but other than that, I don't know how he originally broke through. I don't know the
I
answer.
think he went on Joe Rogan, right?
Oh, is that it?
But
I think there's a
he's an
connection.
MIT.
Okay,
Is he an
but how-
MIT
He
professor?
leveraged the MIT association.
How did he get to Joe
It's
Rogan?
unclear how much he actually teaches at MIT.
Okay.
I'm sure the haters will let me know, but
He's been there once.
I think it's a kind of a loose or thin association with MIT. He might teach something there, and he just used that. I mean, you get an email, "Hey, I'm an MIT professor. Come talk to me about this, branch of
People are like,
artificial
oh,
intelligence or
MIT, you
science."
could interview me.
I should
And
try
then,
that.
yeah, it worked.
Hey, can I? How about if I interview you for the next hour as Lex Fridman? Would that be good?
Sounds great.
Okay, Alex, you wrote a book.
He's pretty good at
Say
the Lex
more.
Friedman.
So, all right. So the video is as such. They have on goggles. What are they wearing, Alex?
This is the Quest 3, I'm pretty sure, the new virtual reality headset from Meta.
Basically, they're wearing birth control.
So 9 months ago, a year and a half ago, however long ago, there was this idea of the metaverse. Facebook changed their name to Meta, and there was cartoon characters without legs, and it looked as ridiculous as I'm describing it. Here we are today, and this shit is real. So they've got headsets on, and they're talking to each other as if the headset doesn't exist. It looks like they're in the same room with each other.
Is it an animation?
it's
is it an
incredible.
animation?
You go in and you get scanned. So they can basically approximate what you look like. And
so you
then
can't do this at home. This
said
is
you
done
go
at
in.
Meta.
Where
I
do
think
you
it's
go?
like a 6 or 8 hour process that they do
Oh.
scanning of your body.
You just
and
burst
you're
the
able to
bubble
do
for me.
this.
Can you get a
6 to 8
colonoscopy at the
hours.
same time?
I mean, it's go. I
Can you
would hope so.
multitask?
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
I-
So no,
I-
it will get quicker. I'm sure of that. But right now, it's a long process.
So, but when you're looking at the two of them against that black backdrop and they're like, quote unquote, in the metaverse together, what's actually happening is that they've both had their full facial features and bodies scanned.
That's right.
And so you're watching an animated approximation of how they're talking. Or-
Exactly. Yeah. So they're
why do we need that?
Well, okay. So on it looks on its face like a much better version of what they had beforehand, which Michael was talking about, that you were going to be in virtual reality and sitting around with other people. I think what was really interesting about the most recent product announcements that Meta made last week was that they really took a page out of Apple's book. So before Apple came out with the Vision Pro, Meta was all about you're going to hang out with your friends in virtual reality and play these games and just talk and hang out. It really did not resonate. And in fact, even their own employees were like, no, I don't want any part of that. Apple came out and said, we're going to layer computing on top of the real world. And so you go from virtual reality to augmented reality or mixed reality as they talk about it. And Meta, I think, saw that vision and pivoted a little bit, and the technology has gotten better. And so now their vision much more approximates Apple's vision, except it's more social now. So I think what was special about what you saw with Lex Fridman is not the fact that they can put these virtual reality avatars together in VR. It's what happens next, which is that there's going to come a point where you slip these goggles on, you're looking in the room, but Josh and I can be here, in person, and Batnick could be anywhere. But with these goggles, it will look like that Lex approximation is with us here together,
that's
and
magic.
that's where things
It's
get
magic.
interesting. Yes, absolutely. So we're
So
still
it's like it reminds me of like when they make movies and the two actors are not together, but they need them to be together, or they have one actor playing like a twin of himself and they're both on screen at the same time.
Correct.
That's like this technology now available to everyone.
Now it gets even crazier because imagine we have the three of us and we put in some artificial intelligence avatar that we can talk to for fact checks, or that can, if let's say you're just hanging out with your friends and you want to have another friend in the room, let's say you're lonely with 3, you want a 4th, then all of a sudden AI avatars are going to come in.
But
and
you
hang
have to
out
be
with
wearing the thing on your face to see that person.
And the form factor is definitely going to get thinner as computing gets better and we start to learn how to make this stuff more efficient. And Apple really aimed for like the more chic version of the glasses. They just couldn't do it technologically. That's why the Vision Pro looks exactly like the Quest and has a battery pack, right? So we're not there technologically. And that's why when you think about this technology, you think about the fact that it's going to take 4 or 5 years to get to where it needs to. And by the way, that could easily be 10, 15 years. It's going to take some time. But that being said, what I saw from Meta last week was the most lucid vision of the metaverse I've seen so far. It's not a bunch of cartoon characters playing around in virtual reality. It's the combination of the virtual and the real, and you layer in some AI. And actually, that sounds like a vision I can get behind.
I would agree. The verisimilitude versus what they were doing a year ago, where your avatar had no legs or whatever. Like it seems like a step change, like fairly rapidly.
I mean, to be clear, they were
What were
wearing.
you gonna
If I
say?
didn't describe it, they were wearing goggles. But they did not see each other's goggles. It's as if they were face to face.
Correct.
It's magic. Go on.
What I'm going to say is Mark Zuckerberg's superpower is that he sees what other people in the tech world does, and he adapts that for his products. And so he's done it to Evan Spiegel. You know, he did it to Kevin Systrom when he brought in Instagram, and I think he's doing it to Tim Cook right now.
All the great artists steal.
Exactly. He's
That's
stealing,
okay.
and he's so good at it.
Yeah.
And I think without the Vision Pro announcement, that Meta might have been still in the place where they were trying to get us all into virtual reality.
So they saw what Apple did and said, as quick as we can.
Absolutely. Apple also created the vision, you know, took the vision that Meta had and brought it to so many more people.
To be clear, there's a lot at stake when you're running a race against Apple on the hardware side to become a de facto standard of anything. Because if you lose to them, then the only way your product will be available is through Apple hardware, ergo through Apple's iOS
What about Android?
store, and then you're paying a royalty to Apple forever. If Zuckerberg can get his hardware to like into enough hands where it becomes its own thing, Apple need not be involved.
So-
That's the stakes are forking over a third of your money to Cupertino or not when you're in the hardware race with Apple.
Exactly right. When I sat with Zuckerberg for my book, Always Day One, the last thing I spoke to him was about VR. By the way, 2019.
And then you guys wrestled.
Yeah, we did. We fought. He won. But I said, you know, don't you want an operating system of your own? And he like picked up
He
his
said,
Android.
I am an operating system.
Correct. Picked up his Android very emphatically and was like, I don't like being subject. I'm just paraphrasing. I don't like being subject to other people's rules. I have a different interaction layer that I would create if I was doing the phone. They did try to create the phone in the past. And he said, that is what we're trying to push forward to in virtual reality. It wasn't called the Metaverse then. And then obviously that becomes the vision. And now you see, by the way, you see Apple tried to, you know, kneecap the whole business with this anti-tracking move. So that is the prayer from them.
What do you mean?
Well, you know, those notifications in your phone that say ask app not to track. You know, that was Facebook's whole business was tracking you off the app and then seeing if you converted and helping the advertisers optimize those ads. So when they're not able to do that, that really, I mean, it cost them $10 billion, they said.
Like that day, the market got crushed.
Exactly. And they've come back from that in a nice way.
Right. So Zuckerberg does not want to spend the next 10 years beholden to the App Store. And the only way around that is you have to own the hardware and you have to get that hardware into a lot of hands.
And if it can even be the Android of virtual reality, so
enough.
not the best, but
Good
the
enough.
cheapest and the one that people use, you know, by and large, then it's just a complete boon for Meta. And I think, Josh, you and I were talking about this way back when Meta stock was down. And it was like, if you bought it at the trough, we didn't know it was the trough at that
I
point.
think
Michael
I
did.
literally
You
did.
did.
Yeah.
So it's a double bet, right? Because either the metaverse works out and they've solved this, or they give up on the metaverse, cut the costs.
And you win
And then,
anyway.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
and that's really proven out.
So they kind of did all that cost cutting, but they never gave up on Meta. They just stopped talking on the Metaverse.
Correct.
They just stopped talking about it,
Kept spending.
kept spending, and then now they actually have something to show for that spending. It's not a commercial product yet, but the Ray-Bans are on the way.
Yes.
When are those going up for sale?
They already have a version of the Ray-Bans. They called Ray-Ban Stories, but now they're just going to put much more technology.
The one they just
inside.
showed off this week. When, like, is that Christmas?
I don't know the ship date. I mean, these ship dates also tend to push out a bit. Like Apple with the Vision Pro says it's coming early next year. We'll see what happens. But I think, from my recollection, it's late this year, early next.
So we've got this thing from that Facebook is building. Apple's thing is coming. Ben Thompson said, "quote There's a hardware breakthrough waiting to happen, just like the internet created the conditions for the smartphone breakthrough to happen."
That's right. I mean, it's like I'm saying, like we're not at the place technologically where you can put these on. I think Josh, you called it birth control.
Yeah,
right?
don't go by me though.
Yeah, but
I have
no,
horrible instincts. Everyone's going to be wearing them in 2 years.
I mean, let's see what happens when
Yeah.
people are sitting on a plane in first class wearing a Vision Pro and how comfortable they're going to feel.
Is that the
doing
Apple
that.
thing?
The Apple.
Oh,
thing.
I will buy that. I don't know if I'm going to spend $3,000 for the first version. I will probably buy that within the first 3 iterations.
When we spoke about it, that was my first use case. Imagine being on an airplane,
Yeah, I love it.
and
I
watching
love it.
a 100-foot movie screen.
Right. And
I'm a big sensory deprivation guy. I have like in my office at home, I have like double blackout shades.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing would make me happier than just leaving the planet via goggles.
Can AI and NVIDIA, not NVIDIA, I'm sorry, AI and all of this stuff like help us get here quicker?
I think it really is a hardware problem, and AI can help a little bit with hardware, but AI I think mostly will help improve the experience. I think you have the best hardware company in the world in Apple trying to solve the form factor, and once they launch this, they're going to see some enthusiasm. People are.
What do you mean? Solve it aesthetically so it looks less dorky, or
Correct.
solve it so that it's more powerful and weighs less?
Not only, I mean, both,
Okay.
right? Those are two sides of the same coin. So it's going to have to get smaller. It's going to have to look better. And you're thinking about it, like you're bringing it on the plane. A lot of people are going to say, "Do I want to have that in my carry-on or not?" It's going to compete with a lot of stuff. So if and when, and this is the hardware breakthrough that I think Ben is trying to get at, if and when you can slip a pair of glasses on, and it's going to happen, and you enter that world,
Oh my God.
that is going to be
so into
nuts.
Can't wait.
All right, take it easy. It's a family show. Over time, AI will be the biggest technological shift we see in our lifetimes. In 2048, if somewhere in the world a teenager looks at all we've built with AI and shrugs, we'll know we succeeded.
That's Sundar.
That's
Right.
Sundar Pichai from Google.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he's been saying. So I remember I was in the crowd in San Francisco in 2016, 2017, where Sundar was talking about how AI is going to be the next breakthrough for humankind after fire and the wheel. And everyone was like, well, that's a little weird.
He skipped over some stuff like vaccines.
Exactly, you know?
Yeah, all right. Cut.
No, but there were indications at that point. We were at that point really teaching computers how to be able to see with a version of the technology called computer vision and process language with natural language processing. And I think Sundar and everybody in Google saw where this was going to go, where the computers would be able to see our world better, be able to process what we're saying better, be able to speak better. And then you would get to a point where they could be starting to show some of the breakthroughs that we've seen this year or over the past year, right? That they can talk to you like a regular person, that they can help you in your everyday efforts. And if you're a technology company, you salivate over that because ultimately, I think it's every technology company's goal to be as close to the human experience or as layer over the human experience as possible. So obviously, the most successful tech product of our time is the iPhone, right? It's basically that. We're seeing building toward that in virtual reality and augmented reality with the Vision Pro and the Quest 3. And then if you have AI, right? AI is not a hardware product. It's more of like this piece of technology that mediates your entire life. Whether that's help me book this ticket, help me figure out what my boss is trying to get me to do, write my essay in school. And so it's going to get us to this point where we're just closer to technology. And
back to the hardware thing,
Yeah.
though, I want to ask you, like, people say, like, why would I pay 28 times earnings for Apple? Maybe this is the answer. No one else, maybe 3 companies on earth might have the capability on the hardware side to deliver these experiences that you're talking about at scale in an affordable way over the next 5 years. This is not going to be a startup raising $500 million and building it. We know
Right.
it's going to be either Meta and Apple or both.
Google.
And maybe Google, but like the list ends, and that's the reason why
Berkshire.
these companies are being valued. Yeah, Berkshire. But like that's an answer to that question of like why am I paying up for these stocks? I know they can't grow as fast as they used to.
Right.
Well, if this is where things are going in the next decade, we're not going to be talking about iPhone sales anymore.
well, Josh, let me ask you this: does the new interest
This is
rate?
my show. You don't ask me. I ask you. All right, go ahead.
All right, I'm
Go
going to
ahead.
throw it out anyway.
Go ahead.
Does the new interest rate environment change that? Because if you had a 28 multiple on Apple and you were expecting this to come, let's say in 5 years, 6 years, but we think now that rates are going to be higher for longer.
No.
Do you have the
Apple.
luxury to wait?
No,
So
Alex,
not- again, not Apple.
If it was
They
going,
don't-
if it was going to, it would have. Look at how Google is trading right now. Does not give a shit about 6% or
Right.
5% interest rates at all.
Yeah, I think these companies they're now big enough that they could weather 3 years of higher rates. And by the way, rates are higher in comparison to where they were 2 years ago. They're not like absolutely high In the 1990s, 5% was the interest rate.
I feel like is AI like the new cloud? In other words, it was what we were like obsessed about for these companies, and now that
Like
maybe
the next driver, you mean?
like maybe it's good timing because a lot of the cloud stuff, particularly Amazon, is not growing
starting
the
to
way.
tail off.
Yes.
I definitely think so. I mean, it has all the same markings, and it's going to, by the way, be a boon to the cloud. Like you think about Amazon trying to revive growth in AWS. I mean, this AI thing is a gift, especially
Yeah,
because
it's flatlined.
So let me ask you. Let me ask you this. I think that one of the biggest risks to the market is that there's a hiccup in the AI story. Mathematically, if the companies that are most involved in AI take a hit, then the whole market's going to take a hit just because of how big they are in the indices. But like, I genuinely have the opinion that AI saved the stock market this year.
right.
We were in March and April. We were that was it. We were going into the recession.
By the way, you said that early, and I think I probably laughed, but I think you were right.
I really believe this. So they did a CFO survey throughout the course of 2022, and I think like 100% of CFOs were ready for recession. And then we finally had the bank panic. We kept saying the Fed's going to raise rates until something breaks. Okay, they broke something. And then like NVIDIA came out in May and completely changed the conversation for investors. You had like Steve Cohen like be like, actually, I'm pretty bullish. I'm really excited about this AI stuff. Like all of a sudden, stock market people had a new thing that they could focus on that wasn't inflation or wasn't the Fed's going to break something. I think that played a really big role in the NASDAQ. Obviously,
Look at this. So we're looking
Yeah.
at NVIDIA data center revenue.
Yeah. So
And
this was the thing that changed. This was the thing that changed the course of the market in May, and then it continued throughout the summer. They did it again. You know, NVIDIA did it again.
they were
later this
doing
summer.
$4 billion a quarter in 2022, and they did $11 billion last
But here's the
time.
question: what if we just got ahead of ourselves, and we start to see the usage of large language models drop off, and we start to hear from the data center companies like Oracle and et cetera, like, oh, you know what? Actually, we might be overspending on AI relative to the need right now, and we're going to pull back a little bit. That could absolutely kneecap the S&P 500 if that. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but do you think that there's a danger that short term, like we did with the internet in 2000, that maybe we're overbuilding for AI relative to the amount of use and demand that actually exists in 2023? Isn't that like a real risk right now?
Yes, let me give two parts to this answer. So the first thing that's going to be really interesting that we're going to see over the next couple of months is we were able to see AI. I agree with you. I think AI has saved the market this year. And we were able to see that because there was both a consumer and an enterprise story, right? ChatGPT, when it came out, was the
consumer
fastest growing
Yeah.
consumer product in history, since surpassed by Threads. And ChatGPT has, I think, more staying power than Threads. And then we saw all the enterprises say, I want to get onto this. And then all of a sudden, you have investors who've used this. They've talked to ChatGPT, and they see companies want to handle it. And they're like, oh, okay, I'm bought in. Now and you see the real numbers from NVIDIA. So they're going to put money there. I think the challenge right now is going to be that the consumer demand is going to drop off. I mean, ChatGPT had declining usage in May, June, and July.
Is that true?
Yes. And
I don't think most people are even aware of that.
Correct. And it ticked a little bit back up in August, but we're going to see what's going to happen. And so I think that
I have a theory about that.
Schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
School is out. There's a lot less need for ChatGPT because that's its primary use case is faking your homework.
So and to build on that, I think that students use ChatGPT because a generalized bot was actually good for them. Where we're going to move toward is we're going to see more specialized bots come out. We're going to see bots that will help you with homework. We're going to see bots that help you with sport,
purpose built for a use case.
There's going to be investment bots, and you're not going to want to go to a general one unless someone builds this general one that blows everything else out of the water. So I think the real test here is going to be when consumer use tails off, and enterprises are still building to get it into the right place. Is that dip that you're going to talk about going to happen? I think that's a real possibility.
We're so far away from that. Most consumers aren't using ChatGPT. Like most people just don't know about it. I think probably most people listen to the show do,
right?
But most of the world has no idea.
But isn't there the danger that everyone tries it once or twice, they're somewhat satisfied with it, or it's frustrating and they're like, that doesn't work.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden that shows up in chip ordering and we just have a stutter stop.
Yes, yes, there is a risk.
That happened with the internet.
No, of course, no, they built way too much fiber cable, right? Like, yes, there is a risk. I think the other side of that is it's so.
I don't know, like GPUs, like is it possible that these massive orders that NVIDIA is talking about have a lot of double ordering because people are worried about getting locked out of the market? If demand tails off and those double orders become canceled orders, what does that do when NVIDIA comes out and says it? What does that do to the market and the enthusiasm that has come from? That's what I think is like the big risk between now and the end of the year.
Right. Well, I mean, supply is the constraint right now, like you mentioned, right? So people just can't get their hands on enough of these H100 chips.
At least that's the story that we think is true currently.
Oh, I mean, I was speaking with tech people. It's definitely the case. Like, there's like this whole black market, and people are like, got some GPUs.
Is it still on fire the way it was?
I think
2
it
months
is
ago?
still on fire. So, but there is this moment that I think we're all talking about here, where there's a lot of testing going on: consumer testing, enterprise testing. And, there's got to be a point where there's ROI. Like right now, you're building because you have to build AI. You have your engineers on it. You're saying, what can we do with this technology to get us in front of our competitors? If that tails off, then yeah, there's real risk. But I think there's still room for NVIDIA to grow.
I don't think that ChatGPT has scratched the surface of what it eventually is going to do for us. And not just ChatGPT, but all these things. I saw, they tweeted the other day, somebody took a picture of a bicycle. Did you see this? And said, like, help me fix this.
Yeah.
And it's magic.
Well, because ChatGPT Plus can now ingest photos, it can talk, and it has many more capabilities than it did in the past. One of my favorite ones of these is that people are drawing logos and they're feeding it in to ChatGPT or Bing and saying, hey, can you actually make a graphically designed, like a nice looking logo?
Duncan, how come we're not doing that?
And it can do it.
I've looked into some options, some similar things. I've tried some of the video ones, and I've gotten some horrifyingly terrible results, but like kind of cool, but also terrifying.
You just don't know how to prompt, boy.
Yeah, I guess it's just my prompting.
So to Josh's point, David Kahn at Sequoia wrote, the important question to be asking is how much of this CapEx build out is linked to true end customer demand and how much of it is being built in anticipation of future end customer demand? This is the $200 billion question.
Right.
So we'll see.
What's $200 billion? Is that the annual
He said
spending
that's the amount of
ROI that you need from all this buying. But I found that article to be extremely confused to me. I mean, he's a startup investor. He's talking about following the GPUs, saying like, what are we going to do to make these GPUs worthwhile? And it's like, it's the strangest form of investing to me. Like, I thought it would be much more product focused, he's talking about infrastructure. He's like, the whole piece is about how we don't need to follow infrastructure anymore. But the whole piece is still about infrastructure.
What do you mean by follow infrastructure?
Basically saying like all this infrastructure is being built and we need to make it useful.
Okay.
But like,
well, yeah.
I would start by, there's so many possibilities with AI right now. Like to me, it's not a question of how do we make the infra. It's so much more technical than your average startup founder is thinking. Startup founders are thinking, where's the problem? How can we solve it? What technology can we use to solve it? Right. And this was just like this really convoluted way where he had an insight, right? Which is that there's a lot of infrastructure that's being built.
To me, it's a legitimate question because you do need an ROI at some point. We learned this from Meta 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. There is a point at which investors say, no more spending. Nothing is coming of all this spending. And they revolted and the stock price went down 70%. That could happen to any of these companies that are throwing all this money at building out, AI capability. We don't know when.
Yeah, but this guy he's a private sector investor and he's investing in startups. Like if he was, so it's so interesting. He almost takes this insight that there's so much spending going on in infrastructure and we need to produce value from that. It's a public market question and he's writing to private market startups. And that's why it feels so confused to me. I think it's a very valid point. But like at the end, he goes, okay, and now as a community, we need to shift our thinking away from infrastructure and towards end consumer value. And it's like, bro, you're a venture capitalist. Your entire job, like, why are you telling me that we're shifting thinking away from this? Your entire job is funding startups. And you're taking your time to write about infrastructure and not about the possibilities that you see startups, being able to tackle. Like it almost brings me back to the Mark Andreessen, like it's time to build. However funny that thing looks in retrospect, like that's the VC's job. It's setting the vision, talking about what you want to build, and then funding the companies that are going to build it.
One of the things that we hear a lot now on Wall Street, people are like, how there's like a meme, like somebody starts saying something and then other people start saying it, and then it just becomes accepted.
Yep.
So one of the recurring things that I've been hearing all summer is that all the money is going to be made in the software layer of AI. Like, in other words, way too much focus on NVIDIA, not enough focus on
Picks and shovels.
no, like the actual user interface, like the money, like in every technology wave, the true value is not captured on the hardware side for long. Eventually, the value is captured on the software side. When I say something like that to you, is that just like Wall Street nonsense, or what? Like, what do you think of that statement?
No, that totally jives into a big debate that's going on in the tech world right now, where people are saying that some of the programs that are being built with AI are thin wrappers on top of OpenAI technology. So basically, it's like, all right, well,
Piggybacking
exactly.
OpenAI, the company.
You put like UI on top of like the underlying technology and called it a startup.
Is that bad?
You know, it's interesting because
couldn't you say everyone did that with the internet?
Exactly. I mean, that's what happened with cloud computing. Isn't so many of our big software programs actual thin wrappers on top of cloud? It's when you build something, and it goes back to what I was saying before. It's like when you build something that actually resonates with people and they want to use, that's worth way more than actually building the picks and shovels in the back end. So, you know, I think that is 100% true. And I think we're in this really interesting moment with AI right now, which is that we've seen a preview of what the great leap forward can look like with these chatbots. It's not there yet, right? We need better memory in these things. We need them to be more applicable in specific use cases. But everybody who's used ChatGPT now sees the roadmap. The problem is that at the moment, what you're seeing companies do with the current technology is really evolutionary, not revolutionary.
Sure.
So we have the preview of the revolution, we have the evolution, and we're waiting for that to translate both in the technology side and the product side to the revolution, and we're not there yet,
So
however impressive it is.
Do you think Sundar is right that if we succeed by 2048, kids will shrug their shoulders? Like, are we going to get to what the ultimate vision for this thing is?
Absolutely. I mean, we talk a lot about technology, like the marvel of technology as we build it, and then it just becomes standard. Like there was a lot of discussion when we went from VHS to DVD to Blu-ray, and then all of a sudden people are just like streaming on Netflix. No one cares about like where the packets are held in which server. They're just like, they start talking about, and by the way, when it buffers or it doesn't work out, you go, this thing sucks.
Piece of shit.
And that's what Sundar's talking about.
Can you tell us about Microsoft Copilot? Our friend Eric Jackson, he tweeted about, I guess, a Jefferies report saying that Microsoft Copilot could do $19 billion in revenue by 2025.
What is Copilot?
And what's like the significance of it?
So Copilot is as you're coding. It's similar to like AI assisted writing.
Because they bought GitHub, which is the biggest coding repository in the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as you're coding, the AI will complete your code for you.
Like it knows where you're trying to get to, and it just will do it.
It will give you suggestions. You hit tab.
How much is that worth? That sounds like it would be worth a lot of money.
Well, that's the big question. So if you're an engineer and you're using this, it can make you more productive. But like, it sounds amazing in theory. This stuff is really hard to put into practice when you're actually doing it. So if you think about, I'm going to use an example that I know well. If you think about AI assisted writing. Okay, right now there's a labs function in Google Docs where you can be writing and say, here's a sentence, write for me. And could it bring up the worst writer to become an average writer? Yes. But does it take an average writer and make them a great writer? No, because it's trained on the medium.
It doesn't have to. Most writing is mediocre by its nature. It's supposed to be.
So then think about coding, right? If you have if it allows the average like entry level coder to become proficient, that's worth something. But when you think about it from a CEO level, right? You have you have your great coders, you have your mediocre coders, and you say, okay, now use this product and let's see what happens.
Are great coders artists though, or are they just like very proficient, but technically and not like creatively? I don't know the answer. I'm asking you.
I think there's more art to it than a lot of people recognize.
Okay.
Like, that's why you're able to see the discrepancy between what they call like a regular coder and a 10x developer, right? Someone who can develop better.
So if you're a startup though,
developers.
like you probably just want people that can get it done.
Correct.
More so than you want like the Picasso of coding.
Yeah, and so this is the thing. So I speak to every CEO likes to tell me about how they're using GitHub Copilot and their engineers are using it. And just on a whim, I was just like, well, is it helping? You know, can you see the concrete results?
Yeah.
And I've had one who's said yes.
Okay,
So
what do the
many-
other ones say?
They say, well, we're not sure yet, and it's it takes a bit of an adjustment, and
But where would that show? Where would that show up in the efficiency?
yeah, that
In the amount that can get done?
exactly that your
Okay.
team is just building more than it could previously. So I think people really underestimate the change management involved in deploying this stuff. A lot of it sounds great in theory. The AI will write your paragraph, the AI will write your code, and then you go and practice, and it's a little bit harder. So, I think that this estimate that we're going to do 19 billion in revenue for Microsoft Copilot is pretty bullish.
How do they sell it?
Well, they just sell it to
It's like a SaaS.
developers.
It's like
Yeah,
an
you
add-on
buy a
SaaS.
seat.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so, look, I think that there are companies that are going to be able to figure this out, but it's going to, like you said, Josh, you're going to start having people ask what the ROI is on these things, especially in this moment of efficiency across every tech company, across every company in the economy. And at a certain point, it goes from, we have to be trying this, we need to be using this, to, well, what has this actually done? Are we
So
shipping
that's what
more
I'm
product?
I'm worried about that moment. Even if it's just a hiccup, it's gonna have an impact in the stock
Definitely
market.
legitimate worry.
What is this doing to the labor market? Not what will it do for the
Right.
rest of us, but what is happening inside the AI labor market? Who's working there?
You mean you're talking about the developers or
Yeah.
like the people that are
People that are building.
building the technology, or the people that are using the technology?
Building.
Oh man, I mean, right now, so AI even in 2016 was a hot field. It's like you could make $1 million as a developer working on something like a computer vision inside Meta, right? Just having the technology that identifies images. Because AI,
like not hot dog.
correct?
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's
One of my
important
favorite
on
things
Facebook.
ever.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Remember when Jen Wang on Silicon Valley
Oh,
invented AI,
yes,
but the only
yes,
thing it was
yes,
programmed
yes,
to do was tell you if something was a hot dog or not?
I missed that show.
Right. Yeah.
So it's called not hot dog, and they don't know why until he shows it to them. And I think he puts a banana on the table, and the AI says not hot dog.
Exactly. I mean, by the way, you definitely had, this is a real application.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah.
when I was out in Silicon Valley, I was like watching the show. I was like, oh, okay, this is like a little too close to home because I'm hanging out with these people every day, and it's just like watching a documentary of what's going on. But yeah, so engineers are in demand. And I also I was at a LinkedIn event this week where they gave some updates on the data that they have in terms of how prevalent this is in certain fields, and it's actually quite minimal. Like not many people are.
Wait, say this again. On LinkedIn is telling you how much hiring is happening for AI?
So how many people inside certain industries are listing AI as a skill on their
okay,
profile?
okay.
And when you hear
Everyone
that,
is, no?
well, actually,
I would've assumed.
I was quite surprised by
Okay.
what happened because so technology, information, and media, there's 2.2% on LinkedIn that are AI skilled. Education, 1.2%. Professional services, 0.9%. Financial services, 0.9%. Manufacturing, 0.8%.
What does it mean? Wait. What does it mean to be AI skilled?
So it's, from my understanding, is that people list AI as a skill or within their profile as like something
For
they've
the
been
clicks.
using.
For the
For
likes?
the clicks or for the likes. But by the way, that seems like fairly small numbers of people that are actually using AI and talking about it on
What
their
if I
profiles.
change the name of my blog to the reformbroker.ai? Do I count as AI skilled?
I would say so.
Okay.
So it's
There's a lot of that shit going on.
oh my
right?
God, it's like the Long Island blockchain
That's
IST
right.
company.
That's right.
Right? When back in the crypto
That's
days.
right. Okay.
So it is interesting because you would think there would be this rush of people to add AI to their profiles. And I'm using this as like a proxy to see how much AI we're actually seeing become prevalent in the economy. And right now it's extremely small, but it's growing fast. So they say that there's been an increase in financial service, a 30x increase in people putting that skill in their profile in financial service, 29x in retail, 24x.
Oh, can I tell you one thing?
And wholesale,
Industry wise,
Right.
financial services will be the biggest bullshit artists about AI. Of all, like, wait till you see what's coming.
But so hasn't automation and artificial intelligence really already transformed
I don't know.
the financial service
I'm talking
industry?
about at the low end, people selling trade bots, and this is
yeah.
the next frontier that the SEC is going to have 3 years worth of cases is going to be all of the fake AI shit that people are going to start announcing.
Well,
That's coming.
with any great boom comes an equal or greater grift.
That's right. Oh, that's good. Who said that? Is that Peter Parker?
Peter Parker, yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us about Mark Zuckerberg trying to destroy Sam Altman?
Yes.
Okay.
This is one of my hot takes that I have.
Yeah,
I'll be
we like
writing
hot
about
takes.
it.
Nicole,
So-
turn on the TikTok camera. All right, go ahead.
So, ChatGPT was the fastest growing consumer product in history. Who makes consumer products? Mark Zuckerberg. Who doesn't like other consumer products coming up and challenging him? Mark Zuckerberg. And it just so happens that ChatGPT is a chat application in the same way that Zuckerberg's two marquee products really are WhatsApp and Messenger. And you can throw Instagram in there, by the way. Instagram is effectively a messaging app. Zuckerberg can't let this stand, right?
Yeah.
So he does two things.
What, this aggression?
This aggression, right? You can't, I mean, OpenAI is coming for not only his status as the world's best producer of consumer products.
We're also funded better than any competitor he has ever faced.
Absolutely. And he's
This is not Evan Spiegel.
correct.
Okay.
And it has Microsoft's backing.
Right.
Okay. So he does two very interesting things to try to kneecap them. One is, so OpenAI has this GPT-4, which is their large language model that underlies ChatGPT. Zuckerberg releases Llama 2. And Llama 2 is an open source model that does the same thing as GPT-4. And he says anyone can use this for free and customize it.
Wait, was there a Llama 1?
I believe so.
Oh, so, okay. Is Llama 2 the one with Clubber Lang? Which one is that? I don't know. Wait, are we saying that this is now a rival to ChatGPT? So like we're on ChatGPT 4, we're on Llama 2, and they're going to just keep
Have
updating.
you ever seen a Llama 2 in the wild?
I have. I mean, I've seen developers.
No, but they're
build
going
on
to keep.
it.
But are they going to keep iterating like along those lines,
Yeah.
where every year it's like, okay, now we're up to Llama 3.
So-
That's the fight.
But this isn't the chatbot. This is the technology that other people can build on. So ChatGPT really was a demo to show how good this GPT technology was. So if you want to build a specialized bot, you can use the underlying technology, pay OpenAI for it, and build.
Okay,
So
got it.
Facebook has, or Meta, whatever they want to call it, they've released the same technology for free. So if you're trying to build and you want to use a large language model to build something, you have a choice: pay OpenAI or use Facebook's free version.
That's crazy. How could they do that? Like, how could they afford to do that?
Yeah, what does Zuckerberg
Because there's
get
a
out
lot
of
of
that?
money for compute
Right.
to run this stuff.
So it's the model. I mean, they spent the money to build the model, but if you want to run a program based off of the model, you basically take Facebook's model and then you pay for the computing costs to train
Where?
it
Like at
even further.
AWS or whatever?
AWS.
Okay,
So
got it.
AWS, by the way, huge beneficiary of this because they have this open strategy that basically they say, if you have a model, put it on AWS and we'll let our clients build with it.
But
You said-
Zuckerberg does this why? To go to war with Microsoft?
So I think in one way it is to challenge OpenAI and to undercut OpenAI. And there's another benefit
But to what end?
because
so that they
you
don't
cannot
become the Google.
Correct.
They don't become the de facto
the
standard.
stronger
that everyone starts
OpenAI,
with.
the stronger OpenAI is, the weaker Meta is on that front. And the second thing he does is and it's just coming out now, he releases not one chatbot, but a slew of chatbots that were just announced last week. So you can go into WhatsApp or Messenger now and request early access where you can have a My AI or a Meta AI bot that you could use for just general ChatGPT-like stuff. But then there are different variations of the bot. So there's one that will talk sports with you that like Tom Brady's face is in. There's one that will like take you on like different text-based games that Snoop Dogg is in. There's a personal trainer that Dwayne Wade is in. And they're like kind of like as you're typing, they respond and like the avatars
These
are
are
like
different
nodding
chatbots
along.
for different use
I
cases.
heard about that.
Exactly.
And this is Facebook?
Facebook is doing this.
You said
So-
that Zuck versus Elon was a sideshow.
That's right.
Zuck versus Sam is the main event. Sam doesn't appear to be very pugilistic, though. He doesn't seem to want the smoke.
Correct.
He's seems like fairly like out of the public eye when possible.
And that's why I don't think this is a sideshow.
Okay.
This is not going to be solved by a wrestle match in the octagon in
Okay.
Vegas. This is a hardcore
This is a spending war,
giant versus giant business fight.
and you're saying Amazon wins no matter what.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I like to hear that. You got another hot take here. OpenAI itself is overrated.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Okay, so here's my take on why OpenAI is overrated. First of all, let me give credit to OpenAI. They sort of pushed this to the forefront for everybody. You had DALL-E, which was their image generation that came out, and it's amazing. ChatGPT, the demo over on top of GPT-4.
Hasn't even been a year
right,
yet.
November
It's crazy.
last year, which is insane because
Yeah.
it feels like this stuff has been around forever. Okay, the thing about both of those technologies is that they are now commodified, right?
Already?
They built this, yes. They built this on top of an innovation that Google had created, the transformer model. Google had it working so well internally that one of their engineers thought it was sentient and
Yeah,
a person
I remember that.
before they released it.
Yeah.
By the way, that was one of my, I had a
Hilarious.
conversation with him on Big Technology Podcast. It was one of the more fascinating, interesting conversations I've had.
Okay.
But this stuff was commodified. So you can now, so not only does OpenAI have the chat technology, Google has it, Amazon has it, Facebook has it, like it's all over the place. And so it's, and then the image generation. I mean, you already see that something like Midjourney is better than DALL-E 3.
Okay.
In many cases. So the main innovation is commodified. That means that they're in the hits business now. If they can't keep churning out hits, then
Hits
they can't keep
hits would
pace.
be what? Applications using the technology.
And research that advances the status quo ahead of the others before they can catch up.
Okay.
The other thing I'll say is that the leadership, so the main person, the chief scientist there, Ilya Sutskever, was
At OpenAI.
correct, at OpenAI, was recruited by Elon Musk and not Sam Altman. And now Musk and Altman are at odds. You also have the fact that some of the key early OpenAI people have moved and started their own company called Anthropic, which last week announced a fundraise from Amazon up to $4 billion.
That was a no-brainer. They were
Right.
probably sitting there like, we could set a company up and within a month get a gigantic check from
They're doing
anyone
it.
that wants
They're
to
doing
compete.
it.
And now
And they
Google
did it.
is apparently ready to come in for $2 more billion. Google had already
Into
invested.
Anthropic.
So they're getting, and they're more neutral. And OpenAI is tied to Microsoft. That's going to limit its ability to really branch out. The best place to be in this world is to be neutral. And Anthropic
Well,
is neutral.
maybe the best place to be is neutral, but a close second
Metaverse.
is to have Microsoft with an unlimited checkbook.
So my point is that that could actually end up hampering them because Microsoft is going to want OpenAI in Azure. So what happens to people that are used to building with AWS? All of a sudden, they're working with Anthropic technology and they're working with Mark Zuckerberg.
So that's like competing standards. The world has experienced that. We had the Windows hegemony, and then Apple came along and rendered that useless.
Yep.
We saw it with search.
Who's going to be the loser here?
Well,
Like, who's going to get left behind?
yeah.
The Bears.
It is. I think Josh is right. Like it is going to be a rising ship lifting all boats in this world. There's a potential that Google is left behind. It might change the way we search and it might, push people off of Google Cloud platform. For instance, I had a story last week about how Google's technology broke for a certain instance of Anthropic tech, and they sent their engineers working 7-day weeks for about a month trying to fix this cluster. I mean, that's really bad. Doesn't
And then they
happen
went with
in
Amazon
Google.
as a result of that, or was it
It's
happening?
not a result. It was already in the works, but it's all just like it can't feel good to be an engineer who you're like working, Saturdays and Sundays, and you see them sign up to $4 billion deal with Amazon.
So you think the days of OpenAI being the center of this conversation are going to wane?
Spot on. Yeah.
So I think there's obviously so much excitement, rightfully so. I can't wait to see what the future holds for this technology. But speaking of getting left behind, I want to talk about something that Mark Benioff said, because there is a potential downside to this. San Francisco is now the #1 AI city in the world. This is from George Perleg's article, by the way. With 8 of the top 20 companies based in San Francisco, AI companies are seeking up to 1 million square feet of office space in the city. According to JLL, San Francisco's GDP growth and especially tech growth has been spectacular. Okay. All right. So then Dror said, the AI boom is real and some people are moving back to San Francisco. I also have no reason to doubt the estimate of AI companies seeking up to 1 million square feet of office space. The problem is what happens in the rest of the city. About 30 million of office space in San Francisco is currently vacant. That's 30 times what the AI boom requires presently. So that story is going to play out not just in San Francisco, but is this going to like further bifurcate the economy? What if the economy goes into recession and there's like an AI boom alongside of it?
Well, that's a great question. I think that the AI will be more distributed than that because it's not just a pure technology story. You're starting to see it end up in places like the legal field, the medical field. It's obviously in media already, and it will end up in financial services. And so if AI does really well, there's going to be value that's created across industries. So I'm less worried. I am worried about San Francisco, although I was just there and it was quite nice. But I'm really less worried about this. If it works, I think it will be widespread. I'm not too worried about
Yeah,
that.
the,
I'm just worried.
the iPhone was released basically into the teeth of the great financial crisis.
Correct.
Like this stuff does happen, regardless of what's going on in the overall economy.
So what's if Amazon is investing whatever it is, 1.25 billion, could grow to 4 billion over time. What sort of valuation is Anthropic already getting?
I think they're in the $40 billion range.
And what do they have?
I mean, they've built similar stuff to compared to OpenAI. They have this model called Claude, which is also a chatbot.
CLAUD.
Yeah, it can do some interesting things from what I understand.
Yeah.
It can you can ingest more text, so you can like basically
The
upload.
E is for savings.
There's 4 E's.
Yeah.
The last E is for, okay.
You can upload some more data into it, so it can like basically read a book and spit out things. I mean, OpenAI.
All right,
will
but
be
this
able
is
to do that.
this is the arms race. Like
Correct.
all of these different standards, they're all going to fight to become the preeminent because all the money is made. These are companies that are accustomed to monopoly markets.
So we spoke
Right.
about like, are we overbuilding for the GPUs? I mean, the market cap of some of these companies that are heavily reliant on it it's hilarious.
It's crazy. It's totally crazy. I mean, OpenAI is trying to raise the rumor
At
is they're
90?
trying to raise at 90 on $1 billion in revenue.
I mean,
So-
come on. Are they going to
and
get it?
especially,
Of course they'll get it. You just
probably.
go to Saudi Arabia. Why is it so hard for people to understand?
All right, so this is hilarious. What a twist of fate this is. Anthropic, this is a headline from FinTech Frank and,
I love
and
this
everyone else. Anthropic's new raise can mean full payout for FTX creditors.
What the does that mean? They had a small investment in Anthropic that's
were the-
now worth
Can
so
you
much.
imagine their stake is enough
Oh
to
my
plug
God.
the hole?
It's
Seriously?
amazing. They
This
were
is-
the lead on Series B for Anthropic, which means
I've
that
always
they're-
said Sam Bankman-Fried is
Right.
a fantastic investor.
Hold on.
Early
So
stage. Early stage.
accidentally,
correct.
all the money they sprinkled around for all the nonsense, real estate and pet projects,
Right.
they happen to have put some money into a really good thing or on paper.
So this is going to plug Alameda's hole.
Here's
Unbelievable.
The weird connection is that
Get him out of jail right now. I've heard enough.
Right.
I've heard enough.
Free Sam.
Michael Lewis, hold my beer. Let's give this guy a Nobel Prize.
Oh man, how can I get some money to him?
What were you going to say?
Go ahead.
The weird connection is that, and I can't get too deep into this because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, but Sam Bankman-Fried is what's called an effective altruist, which is basically like this idea of like make a ton of money in business and then use it to improve the world. And the people who are basically running all throughout Anthropic are also effective altruists. So the effective altruist movement in some
It's a wrap.
roundabout
Just
way
kidding. How could I sell it?
saved FTX.
All right, look, let's do SBF. So the trial started this week. I think they did jury selection. Doesn't look like things are going well for old Sam. He's got 9 women, 3 men on the jury. I read somewhere. Okay, that's not great for him. So
Wait, you think that women are more likely to convict him?
I think he's not in any way, shape, or form likable to women in the way that I could picture if they had like a bunch of not nerds, but like a bunch of like dudes. They might just be like, "Oh, the video game guy." Leave him alone.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
a good
I don't
theory.
know. I could be wrong. I often am. Michael Lewis is all of a sudden worse than Sam Bankman-Fried. Is that what's going on this week? I'm not.
yeah.
I'm not on
Okay.
Twitter. Could you explain this to me?
Josh is somehow not on Twitter, but he's aware of all the takes on Twitter.
Well, because
It's
every
very,
article.
very suspicious.
Josh, what is your burner handle?
No, every article is about Michael Lewis this week.
It's way overdone.
Yeah.
It's not fair. And
No, when something is a really big deal on Twitter, it leaks into articles because everyone on Twitter
a good
is a
point.
journalist.
just to clarify this, it's not fair. I agree that the clips that came out of 60 Minutes looked as bad as everybody is.
He like
saying
soft
that,
pe- he
yeah,
soft pedals.
It's
the
not.
story.
It's not good. A potential defense of Michael Lewis, not that he needs it, is that he could have spoken to 60 Minutes for 10 hours. But the part that's not fair is that people are just piling on to oblivion that this guy's always been a fraud. He's always full of shit.
a fraud.
Like Michael Lewis. That's what that's what people are calling Michael Lewis. So
He's a fraud because they think that he got paid by FTX to write this book.
that's part of it. So all of that to me is way over the top. I think Matt Levine, as he always says, has a really has the right take on this. Matt said, I am about halfway through Going Infinite, Michael Lewis's book about SBF, and I am very much enjoying it. Many of the reviews that I have read of the book complain that Lewis does not sufficiently explain that Bankman-Fried is guilty and bad, actually. But that is not the book that he wanted to write or the one that I want to read. He wanted to understand and explain Bankman-Fried's psychology and tell a good story. If you want to read a moral condemnation of crypto theft, you can get that anywhere. You go to Michael Lewis for character and story.
So I sort of get that. I would just say Michael Lewis writes novelizations of real life people. He has a plot and an archetype in advance before he starts writing. He's looking for outsiders, loners, people who are doing something really different, people that are quirky. And then, yes, he lionizes like these people because that's the device. That's how he tells these stories. He's not an investigative journalist. Does somebody think that he is?
Well, that's not it. I think some of the quotes that he literally said out of his mouth were so far off the mark.
He said it's not a Ponzi scheme.
So factually wrong.
Right.
And any perceived offense of this monster it's bad.
Let's say so clear that he adores Sam.
Yeah. I got that. I got that from the clips. I watched it on 60 Minutes. I was like, holy shit, this is like Stockholm Syndrome.
He said the world has a Sam Bankman-Fried sized hole in it.
Really rough.
Crazy.
Really rough. Really rough. But here's the thing.
Does he have to write chapter 1? Yeah. Sam Bankman-Fried is a scumbag. Is that the only way that he can appease?
But my problem with the piling on is it? And I know it's mob mentality. It's the internet. I know how Twitter works. Can we find value in somebody's work and also disagree with one of their takes without absolutely
he's corrupt,
without burying their entire existence? Like, okay, what he did, I don't agree with what he did. So, does it make everything that he's ever done that much worse? Is he now always a fraud and an idiot?
Yeah, actually, I hated all his books and the stupid movies.
We can't disagree with what somebody did.
Moneyball was a fraud.
Here. I mean, look, there's some interesting context here, which is that the Blind Side book that he wrote, you now have Michael Orr in a very big dispute with the family that raised him.
Right. So that's ugly.
And that was almost a precursor. And the fact that, I mean, I agree with you, Michael. Like, I think the piling on has been overdone on Michael Lewis. I think that just looking at it from, outside of that, it's a huge missed opportunity. He met him 100 times. He was there through the whole moment. I think it could have been done without saying Sam Bankman-Fried is a scumbag on chapter 1. I think his opportunity was he understands people. He understands systems. And his opportunity was, I just witnessed one of the most egregious financial crimes of our lifetimes. And I'm going to take you inside the psyche of this person.
How it was even possible.
We love a hero story. I think we love even more getting inside the head of someone who's truly not depraved, but reckless to the point of being criminal.
So I don't want to say too much on the Michael Lewis side because Barry Ritholtz, my partner, Michael's partner, actually spent an hour and a half interviewing him, I think today? Yesterday. And that's going to come out the same day that this comes out, I think, Masters in Business podcast for Bloomberg. And we'll know a lot more from Michael's side because this interview took place after the Twitter pile-on.
Right.
So maybe he'll react to I don't know when. I haven't spoken to Barry.
Barry got to ask him about that. Here's an interesting take, which is, obviously factual from Dan Primick at Axios. He said Michael Lewis got incredibly lucky on timing. If he'd begun a year earlier, he might have come out with a hagiography that looks terrible in retrospect. Instead, he got a front row seat to the financial front of the century.
Such a great point.
This would have been the most freezing cold book of all time.
Like imagine he put this book out last November.
Oh, it would have been a disaster. I mean, if you think it's bad now, at least he wrote about the crime. I mean, if he would have gone out any earlier,
my understanding was the book was like on its way to the public. Like when you're following someone around and writing about them, you have to end it somewhere.
Right.
And then this whole thing came apart last October and November, and it saved his ass. It gave him a chance to write like what happened after. He might not have had that chance.
So I also have a very soft spot for Michael Lewis. He wrote a book that called Home Game, An Accidental Guide to Fatherhood. That
I remember you talking about that.
We read this, I think, when Kobe was born. Like, we just read it to each other, for entertainment, because it was a hilarious book. So Michael Lewis wrote this book.
To be clear, you and Robin read it to each other, not you and I.
I'm sorry.
Okay. No, the way you made it sound.
My wife and I.
Okay.
And so one of his kids' name was Quinn, and if we had a daughter, we would have named our kid that. And she died in a horrific car crash.
Right.
Like 2 years ago,
while he was writing the book.
So how could you not as a human being just take it a little bit easy? We could disagree with what he said, with the way that he said it. It doesn't look good, but for goodness sakes, just take it easy.
There's two categories. It seems to me there's two categories of criticism about him. One is that he was just captured by this kid, which seems true. And he's just credulous. And he was in the process of writing, this is the next Steve Jobs. And that's legitimate criticism. The second criticism is that there's some kind of payment somewhere. And
Come on.
I mean,
Yeah,
well,
that's ridiculous.
maybe
Yeah.
I wouldn't know, but like that's a really big accusation. Like, isn't the payment enough that if Michael Lewis writes a book with this much access to SBF,
It's gonna make a
it's
lot of
going to
money.
make a lot of
Michael
money
Lewis
either way?
is a wealthy
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, he's gonna make a lot of money.
So,
I mean,
so if you're one of these people that thinks that like there's something criminal about writing a book about someone, I don't know.
yeah, it's almost like
Then can
sometimes,
anyone write a book anymore?
sometimes the criticism goes so overboard that it minimizes the actual legit criticism. And I think that like what would have been great was a conversation about the book itself.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's spiraled into these conspiracy theories and talking about how he's been paid off or a fraud is that's
All right, let me ask you this.
unfortunate.
Let me ask you this question. They could have changed the title. Going infinite like implies that this is still a thing that's happening.
Mhm.
Like, what if he changed the title to like
The crime of the century.
Crime of the Century?
You would have had to change the book. So another thing that happened.
Well, wait
here-
a minute though. People
Right.
would be less mad because
Mhm.
don't judge a book by its cover. LOL. Everyone does.
Yeah.
If right on the cover, Michael Lewis is like, this kid committed the crime. I'm calling the kid, he's 30 years old. If right on the cover, he's
He
like,
does have
this is a
kid vibes,
criminal
though.
mastermind. He literally stole customer deposits and gambled with it at his hedge fund. And that's what this book is about,
Mm-hmm.
with a whole lot of buildup where I'm giving him noogies and we're, watching the sunset together. But people would have been more forgiving if the framing and literally the cover of the book
Right.
were more accusatory. I feel like he would have gotten away with.
The problem for Lewis is you just have to do one, right? It could be the cover, it could be the narrative, it could be
Something.
the interview. And unfortunately for him, he made his own bed, but the cover, the narrative, and the interview,
interviews.
all lined up
Yeah.
as
It's not good.
I adore Sam.
It's not
Bankman-Fried.
good.
I just it was interesting watching him talk about Sam because I just wanted to hang out with Michael Lewis. I was like, this guy seems like a good dude. Like I would like to spend time with him.
Yeah.
Clearly he really likes the people that he likes. The problem is that it was just not the right
Just
person.
pick the wrong person.
So getting back to the story, which is Sam. This was in the Journal today. So the trial starts. Prosecutors say Bankman-Fried stole funds from FTX customers in part by secretly ordering the programming of special features that gave Alameda, his crypto trading firm, the ability to treat FTX as a giant slush fund. Court filings have revealed a line buried deep in FTX's code that allowed Alameda to have a negative balance of as much as $65 billion. So this was uncovered through, they bought a company called LedgerX. The people at LedgerX saw the line in the code and were like, what in the is this? They reported it, and then, quote, from the Journal, the employees who made the discovery reported it to the boss of their division, who discussed it with one of FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried's lieutenants. Some of the people said, and of course, they were all fired.
This is
Fired
why,
for bringing it up.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a
This is why he's
a
probably going to
criminal.
prison, right?
Yeah.
It's because his whole thing is like, oh my God, I just realized that there was $8 billion gone.
No.
Don't bullshit a
It's very
bullshitter.
clear.
Stop.
How do you guys think the fact that he was able to take so many people, Michael Lewis, Tom Brady, the list goes on, was it just money? Or
Yeah.
was it personal? Okay, yeah.
No,
No,
it's
no,
not. His personality is horrible.
terrible.
No, it's also
It's just money.
It's social proof. It's money and
Right.
social proof. He must be good. Look at who he's surrounded
By
with.
the way, could he have pulled this off absent the pandemic?
Or
where
absent-
nobody sees each other.
Yep.
And everything is text messages and phone calls.
and absent a crypto bull market.
well,
it's just
obviously
a-
you need
it-
that.
it's-
That's the key ingredient.
Like
for all
Tom
this
Brady
shit.
got like what $40 million for 20 minutes of work every year. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but like it is amazing how there should be a gut check for people where it doesn't fully seem right here.
What else?
But
What else is in FTX's portfolio? What if they've got the greatest venture fund of all time?
I wouldn't be so. Given the Anthropic news at this point, I'm just like, okay, everybody's getting paid.
I mean,
back.
that's kind of like the venture model is just buy everything and
Exactly.
something's going to 10x.
yeah. Well, there you go.
Did you see the thing with his dad, where his
Who?
dad's asking for more money from
Oh, it's
FTX?
yeah.
disgusting.
It's
The
kind of
parents
hilarious.
look worse than the guy.
He literally says putting Barbara, which was
Oh, yeah.
his mom,
I'm telling your mother.
on this email. I'm telling your mom that you're not paying us enough.
And by the way, they taught ethics at Stanford. I mean, that's another one
rough.
that's just puzzling to me.
If you listen to so there was a great New Yorker magazine piece, and the perspective from the parents is that
He's innocent.
This whole thing is like there's an agenda behind it, and I get it. It's his parents. Like nobody wants to see their kid go to jail, and nobody wants to admit that they raised somebody that's capable of theft on this scale. But they're not just like innocent bystanders. They're like very involved in the charitable side, the philanthropy. They're in emails. They have positions. Like they're so deep that like nothing they say has any credibility.
Absolutely.
So, all right, it's very ugly.
You know what we've got in a few weeks? We've
What?
got earnings coming up. You excited?
I'm always excited for earnings.
I think it's like the third.
What's the biggest earnings story of the big tech companies that you follow? What's the most consequential?
I mean, I always love following the Meta earnings. I want to
Yeah.
see how the ad market is doing. I mean, we'll start to see a little bit more about their Reality Labs, movement. So I feel like they are just so consequential for so many industries that so many different big companies. So I always look for them.
What's your read on Apple's the 15 launch? How it's gone so far?
It's going amazing for them.
It's going
from
amazing.
What I understand.
Did you get one?
I have one. I was on the 10. I had waited for the
Oh, the
USB-C. Yeah, I had really way too
on the
long.
10? Does that have an antenna?
It is okay. Mine had a cracked screen and a
Does that have a
bright
kickstand?
line. Yes, it has a kickstand.
Wait, do you have the 15?
I think I have a 13 Pro Max.
I thought you were getting the new one.
I will.
Is yours heating up?
It is, but it's not to the point where like people have. Like,
No, that's actually good. You
Yeah.
get two of them,
I mean, it's only first degree burns.
and then you
Like, why
use
is
it as a
everyone complaining?
panini press.
exactly.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
actually not the worst thing.
Alex, how do you like podcasting?
I love podcasts.
You and Manjan
yeah.
are great together.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Could you
always fun.
say more about your show for the fans of our show that are enjoying this episode? They should go listen to you immediately. Tell us about your show and what you do on there.
Thank you. Yeah, so my show is called Big Technology Podcast. I started it in 2020, mid-pandemic.
Like the rest of us.
Like the rest of everybody. Yeah. And I just thought I quit my job at BuzzFeed. I was a journalist there. And I thought I need an excuse to talk to interesting people once a week. So I'm going to set up a podcast. Everybody likes to be on podcasts.
That's right.
I mean, and it's worked out. We had recently had Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb, on. Will Cathcart, the CEO, the head of WhatsApp, has come on. Jan LeCun, the chief.
You will only
scientist
speak to
at
C-level,
AI.
I'm told
You
now.
get you get huge guests.
At a certain point, yeah, you don't want to end up. You want to talk to the people making the decisions who can actually.
Why are
speak
you
to
so good
things.
at getting guests? Like getting very high level. Like Brian Chesky is not doing podcasts in general, but he
Right.
did yours, and I'm going to listen to it this weekend. But what's your Lex Friedman superpower?
I think it began because I was a journalist speaking to people inside these tech companies all the time. So I didn't just start up and say, "Hey, please speak to me." Like I had some context with a lot of these places.
Yeah.
And then people listen, and they know that these conversations they're not softballs, but they're also not like gotchas. I really want to learn when I'm on the phone or I'm on the line with somebody, and so I'm going to bring tough questions and then let them explain themselves. And if it necessitates a follow up, that's coming.
Yeah.
You have
and I
Linda
think that's-
Yaccarino next week.
So I have. I probably shouldn't say this, but screw it. I've been talking to Twitter about possibly having her on.
Oh wow!
And we were talking like ahead of the code conference.
Yeah, that's probably not happening now.
Well, yeah, so
I'm gonna guess she's 90 days away from her next interview.
most likely. Well,
Most
she did.
likely.
She just gave one a few days afterwards, but they probably cleared the schedule.
Yeah.
So
I was like, is Elon going to fire her?
That's not her strong suit.
the real question is whether she's going to change the advertising equation for them and bring all the advertisers back. And I just read a report that August advertising for Twitter was down 60% year over year, and down more than 55% every month year over year. So that's really her job. She's coming from the advertising side. If she can restore that ad money, it doesn't matter.
Isn't that backwards?
She just got there, sort of.
Isn't that backwards? Don't they have to restore the? Don't they have to stanch the outflow of users before they can fix the advertising product, or do you have to do both at once?
I just looked at some new data about the difference between Twitter and Threads.
Yeah.
And people were like, Threads has killed Twitter.
Nobody
And-
says that. Who said? Nobody's
Okay.
seriously saying that.
Not killed, but challenged. Okay.
I
Let
doubt
me
it.
just give the data. All right.
Okay,
we
go.
can talk about it afterwards. It hasn't changed usage of Twitter at all
Okay.
since Threads has come out. And that's across many months. Usage of that platform is stable. Now, a lot of the power users are gone. Maybe the cult of Elon has come on, and maybe it's bots. Who knows? But like usage seems to
Wait,
be
the
stable.
power users of Twitter are gone.
Many of them.
You talking
have
about me?
left. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But you were out before
I
Elon.
left pre-Elon. Elon's
which
not
was a
my
great
issue.
move.
Yeah, I just hate people.
I
It's
also
different.
think that it's terrific that the news industry has disengaged from Twitter. I think it was driving lots of
It
ridiculous
was
stories.
dude. It was
and
unhealthy.
embarrassing for journalists, and it's
Yeah.
nice to see that most of them are either gone or have minimized their time on that platform.
Oh, you interviewed Taylor Lawrence. Is she on Twitter anymore?
She's on Twitter. Yeah,
she
so
is.
she was
She's
just on the
extremely
show.
on Twitter.
She's extremely online, which is the name of her
I
book.
met Taylor
but-
this summer. I really
Oh, yeah?
liked. I I know that there's a lot of controversies that have to do with her.
Exactly.
She's provocative.
But I'm not on
Yes.
like TikTok, and I don't give a shit about
Right.
any of that. I met her in person. I really liked her.
Yeah, so she texted me ahead of the book launch and was like, can I come on? And I was like, of course you can come on. And we're going to talk about all of the tough stuff. We're going to talk about some of your big controversies. We're going to talk about the book. I'm going to read the book,
she
ask
Washington
questions about
Post,
it.
or-
Washington Post.
Okay.
And I had a couple people who like replied, like, I'll never listen to the podcast anymore. But honestly, like, if I was going to run a podcast that shied away,
We get that. We get
Yeah, of
that
course.
when you come on, but we don't
I
care.
appreciate your courage.
Yeah.
If I was going to run a podcast that wasn't going to have, tough interviews with people from all walks of life and all perspectives, then why am I even doing it? So I'm happy that I had her on.
Okay. No, I think that you should, like, within reason.
Right.
When someone is controversial, but not like for a reason that like crosses over the line to
Yeah.
bad taste, but just somebody that consistently says things that are provocative, it's not a reason not to hear their side of the story.
Yeah, and if anything, going on a podcast is a great format to unpack it with them. Because
Way better than a tweet.
100%.
Right. Because you can really get into that stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So you have great guests. You're great at getting great guests. Congratulations on
Thank
that. And it's called the Big Technology Podcast.
Yeah, and then we do a news breakdown every Friday with myself and Ron John Roy, who's an analyst. He writes the Margins newsletter on Substack. And that's our chance to be like, I'll do like the big, like what's going on with Airbnb with Brian Chesky. And then with Ron John on Fridays, we just say, what the heck happened this week in the tech
Like
world?
a recap. You know why that's so valuable?
It's like animal spirits for tech.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
so much happening every week, and
crazy.
a regular person can't keep up with it
Yeah.
all.
And the
And
news,
you guys just do it for them.
And you spoke
we
to
try.
a former FTC guy recently
Oh yeah, he
about
came
Amazon.
on with us about the Amazon lawsuit from the FTC, and it's just like the headline. Having been someone writing stories for news outlets, headlines, stories, they're good, they're necessary. They just don't. They never do justice to the story. And having been in that seat and now doing the podcast and doing the newsletter, I'm able to look at the headlines of the week and be like, well, this is what they said. Here's what's probably going on behind the scenes. Here's what's coming up next. Like maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, we looked at the fact that Walter Isaacson had that book coming on about Elon, and Michael Lewis had the book coming on about SBF. And we're like, well, we're starting to get a sense as to what they're talking. What are the headlines going to be when these books come out?
Right. And you could almost predict it. Right.
Basically said this is reputation.
Oh, that's
stuff
awesome. All right.
that's
So
happening.
everybody make sure you check out Alex's show and what's the Substack called?
It's called Big Technology, and I bought the domain name since the last time we talked, so it's just bigtechnology.com.
Look at you.
There we go.
Look at you. You have fun on the show today?
Always have fun. It's
All
great
right.
seeing you guys.
We love having you here. There's so much that we trade these stocks and we invest our clients' money in them, but there's like a game behind the game, and
Yeah.
you're our guy for the game behind the game. So thank you so much for enlightening us. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
You ready to do favorites?
Yes.
Okay. You want to go first?
Yes, I will.
Go first. Let's go.
My favorite is a TikTok account that I just came across. It's called Body by Mark. It's this guy in New York City that walks up to people with the camera on who are in great shape.
Okay.
And he goes,
Yeah, that happened to me this
you're
morning.
ripped. Yeah.
I met Mark in Grand Central Terminal. It was awkward. I told him how I did it.
What is your secret, Josh?
Chinese food.
Okay, that's
So,
great.
all right, go ahead.
So he does this and he was like, hey, what's your routine? And you have all these people with like different body types talk about the workout routines they're doing. And I think that it's so interesting because, there are all these folks who say, I have a monopoly on truth. You have to do this. You have to eat that. You have to, run this amount, lift this amount. And you can actually see by watching these videos, like the different types of exercises that correspond to the different types of body types.
Oh,
And
that's interesting.
so it's like one of the things that I've learned from it already is that I feel like I've been going about this completely wrong. Like I like to go to the gym and lift some weights. But
Not to brag.
Michael
too.
Yeah, look, we're both from Long Island. This
Yeah.
is just comes with the territory
Yeah,
for all of us.
Weightlifting is a big thing.
Exactly.
Right.
Calisthenics, push-ups, pull-ups,
Yeah.
and dips, which you always hear about. But the guys who say calisthenics on these videos, I mean, they're in the best shape of anybody.
More so than the bodybuilders.
Definitely. And
or
it was
the
just like-
weightlifters.
Exactly.
Right.
The secret
And-
to my physique is a standing desk. That's it.
Standing
That's
desk
all I
help.
do.
Yeah, exactly. So I just was like, I don't know. I thought that if anybody's,
Is it funny?
yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right. This is on TikTok?
it's TikTok Body
All right.
by Mark.
We're going to check that out.
Yeah.
Michael, what do you got for us today?
All right, just to reiterate, Michael Lewis, if you're a young parent or a new
Wait,
parent,
are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
Really going to do this?
I'm dead
now?
serious. Home guide. Home game, an accidental guide to fatherhood. It is such an incredible book.
But he's a fraud.
Cannot recommend it highly enough. John, can we throw up?
He's a damn villain.
He was paid by those kids to write
They
that
did
book.
pay him. John, I want you to throw up. So I saw this tweet this week. There's an account, culture_crit. It's for Culture Critic. And what we're looking at, here's the tweet. Imagine how morally, all right, I don't want to say that. New York City's Penn Station was torn down in 1963 to build Madison Square Garden, and the station was forced underground. One entered the city like a god, one scuffles in now like a rat. Yeah, that's true. And he's showing a reminder of how, look.
That's the old Penn Station.
Did you know that?
Can I please add some context to this, though?
Sure.
Okay. This is maybe what it looked like in the 1940s. It's a Beaux-Arts masterpiece.
Just
We
look
all
at this.
understand. Hold on.
Incredible.
That's not what it looked like in the 1960s when they tore it down. It was thoroughly destroyed. It was run down, decrepit. It was not in good condition.
Look how beautiful. Unbelievable.
But understand, you're showing me World War II era photos of this structure.
Yes, correct.
Okay. That is
That's
not
the demolition. There's Moynihan. Right
that is
next to
not
it.
the condition that it was in when they took it down.
Carmelo would have never come to play in that.
No, absolutely not. I
just
listened
taking
to.
the Eagle.
Are we done with this?
Yes, but
All right. I listened to Warren Littlefield on The Town. Do you know who he is?
No.
You know who he is, right?
I don't know Warren Littlefield. I've listened to The Town.
The Town is great.
One of my favorites.
Great podcast. It's a joint production between Puck and The Ringer. Warren Littlefield basically was the guy that invented must-see TV. In the 1980s and 90s, he was programming NBC. And he's still in the game. Like he produces shows now for all the big streamers. But him talking about the shows that we grew up watching and like the true story behind like why was this show on Tuesday night, but this other show was on Thursday night. He gets into all that stuff. And what's so fascinating is how monoculture the United States used to be. And one of the examples is Bill Cosby's show in the late 80s or early 90s had a 52 share, which means 52% of all the televisions that were on in America that night were tuned to the Cosby Show. This is like tens of millions of people. Nothing like this. Nothing even gets close to this. I don't care what show you're talking about on HBO or whatever. And the power that you had over advertising as a result of that sounds to me exactly like the power that Meta and Google have today.
Mm-hmm.
He's telling stories about like Roseanne was on its last legs on a rival network on ABC, and they wanted to knock it out. So they decided to put Frasier up against it. And then ABC said, oh yeah, and they put Home Improvement against Frasier. Like these were some of the wars that were fought. And the reason why Thursday night became so important, if you were opening a movie that weekend, you had to blanket coverage Thursday night TV with ads to get people out. Also, car dealerships. When do you go to a car dealership? Saturday or Sunday? So that's why Thursday night became so important and became must-see TV. The advertisers wanted your attention on the weekend, and they wanted you to start planning it on Friday. So you had to be on Thursday night. So I thought it was a really interesting conversation, and there were a lot of echoes about what goes on today with like just the quest for attention and how fragmented everything is. So everyone check out the podcast called The Town and look for the Warren Littlefield episode. All right, that does it for us. I want to point out this is the brand new t-shirt in the Compound store. It's idon'tshop.com. Literally, you are the first people to see this. If you want to be the first kid on your block to own the official Back in Black 60/40 t-shirt, where do they go, Michael?
idon'tshop.com.
All right. Do we have any other announcements? Anything else we need to do?
Just a reminder, Charlotte, we're coming.
Yeah, I actually think we have too many people now coming to the live event. Is that right? You're nodding.
It's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot already.
Yeah.
So we should stop talking about it?
I mean, don't get your hopes up, is what I would say.
Don't get your
What
hopes
do you mean,
up.
we're sold out?
Yeah, we're going to sold it out.
We will probably sell out pretty quickly.
We didn't even put the link up yet to do it, but we got so many inbound emails that it looks like we're going to sell it out. So these are good problems. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.